Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Gordon, Southers, Shields, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. All public comment will be heard during item 3 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak on any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. So you are free to express your opinions on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Message to those attending a meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Public Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations, and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal of the meeting. This is my first meeting as president of the commission. I would like to thank my fellow commissioners. Thank you. I would like to thank my fellow commissioners, the commission staff, the Inspector General and his team, the chief, and the members of the department, and the community for their warm welcome. They have provided over the past few months, and I accept this work. I look forward to working closely with everyone in this new leadership role. With that, we will move to item 2, the report of the Chief of Police.
Good morning, President Gordon Sanchez, Vice President Southers, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today I'll be covering key events from the last 2 weeks, share our latest crime trends, and provide an update on our staffing levels. We had an officer-involved shooting in Southwest area. On August 31st at approximately 1 in the morning, Southwest Division uniformed officers were conducting extra patrol at a liquor store located on the corner of 9th Avenue and West Jefferson Boulevard. While inside the location, the officers made contact with an individual later identified as Malik Salah, who appeared to be concealing a firearm on his person. As the officers attempted to detain Salah, he removed a firearm from his waistband, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Salah fired multiple rounds at the officers while inside the store and as he exited before fleeing on foot. A perimeter was established, and several minutes later he was taken into custody without further incident. Officers determined that Salah had been struck by gunfire and immediately rendered aid until the arrival of Los Angeles Fire Department personnel. He was subsequently transported by rescue ambulance to a local hospital where he was listed in stable condition. Salah was absentee booked for attempted murder of a police officer. An unloaded 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol at slide lock with a seated high-capacity magazine was recovered at scene and booked as evidence. No officers or other community members were injured during this incident. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. On September 4th, 2025, at about 8:20 in the morning, Rampart area uniformed officers responded to an ADW suspect, there now radio call, at 349 South Lafayette Park Place. The comments of the call indicated that the suspect, later identified as Julian Marie Douglas, was at the front gate of the location waving a butcher knife. Upon arrival, officers observed Douglas standing in the apartment courtyard, armed with a knife and with blood on her hands. The officers ordered Douglas to drop the knife and then quickly entered a nearby apartment and barricaded herself inside a closet while still armed. Officers continued to verbalize with Douglas to drop the knife and surrender, but she failed to comply with their orders. Metropolitan Division, Special Weapon and Tactics, SWAT, were requested and responded to the location, and after several hours of attempting to gain compliance, CS chemical agents were deployed. Douglas emerged from her apartment, still armed with the knife, when officers deployed a taser, shockwave, and sage rounds toward Douglas. Douglas was struck by 2 sage rounds and was taken into custody without further incident. Douglas was transported to a local hospital where she was later admitted for injuries she sustained during the use of force. No officers or other community members were injured as a result of this incident, and again, Force Investigation Division investigators responded and are investigating the incident. On the issue of officer-involved shootings, year-to-date, we've recorded 31 officer-involved shootings compared to 21 at this time last year, for an increase of 47.6%. The 5-year average is 32 incidents annually, with 31 already in the first 9 months. The year-end totals are on track to meet or possibly exceed the historical average, given the 4 months remain in 2025. Some interesting observations relative to that issue. Nearly 80% of the cases began with citizen calls for service rather than proactive enforcement, highlighting the reactive nature of these events. South Bureau continues to account for the largest share of incidents, with Southwest, Rampart, Southeast, and Olympic divisions most impacted. Roughly 1 in 4 suspects showed signs of mental illness. Less lethal tools were used in about a third of the cases, though firearms remain the primary resolution. The majority of individuals involved were Hispanic or African American males, with smaller proportions of white, other ethnicities, and females. Vandalism hate crime on August 30th at approximately 12:20 a.m. West Valley patrol officers responded to a vandalism call at the Valley Beth Shalom Synagogue on Ventura Boulevard. Officers met with a security guard who directed them to the sidewalk where they observed a swastika painted in yellow. Security footage showed a male suspect arriving on foot, painting the symbol, and then fleeing. The marking was immediately removed. Later that same day, officers responded to a second incident at Genesta Park. Yellow paint had been used to write "Israel did 9/11, 10:07," referencing both the September 11th attacks and the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas. The same phrase was found at 3 separate locations in the park. Those markings were also removed, and detectives obtained surveillance video of the suspect. During the course of the investigation, officers discovered additional graffiti along Ventura Boulevard, also painted in yellow on planters, electrical boxes, and traffic signs. These markings were consistent with the earlier incidents and are believed to be possibly related, though detectives are still working to confirm that connection. All graffiti has since been removed. Each of these incidents have been documented as a hate crime, vandalism. In response, the department has directed additional patrols to Jewish places of worship, and those patrols will remain in place. Detectives are actively working to identify and apprehend the suspect. Anyone with information about these incidents is urged to contact our Major Crimes Division, which has assumed investigative responsibility for the case. Some notable arrests. On August 27th, a residential burglary occurred at 6732 Friend Rivers Avenue within Topanga Division. During the break-in, 6 guns were stolen, including 3 AR rifles. Investigators later identified a Graham BMW connected to this crime. On August 31st, at about 3 in the morning, suspects tied that vehicle to that vehicle were observed committing catalytic converter thefts. One acted as an armed lookout while others removed the parts. The stolen property was later transferred to a third suspect who loaded it into a horse trailer at a non-commercial location with no signage. With the assistance of Southgate Police, that suspect was taken into custody and 36 catalytic converters were recovered. 2 additional suspects fled in separate vehicles. One suspect crashed during the pursuit later that morning and was arrested. The second suspect was tracked to another part of the city and around 6 in the morning was taken into custody along with additional individual without incident. The suspects on that, Justin McGowan, male Hispanic, 26 years old, was observed cutting and removing catalytic converters, transporting and concealing stolen property in a horse trailer, and delivering it to another suspect. He was booked for 182A PC, conspiracy to commit a crime. Second suspect, Roberto Martinez, male Hispanic, 19 years old, acted as an armed lookout while McGowan removed the converters, transported and concealed stolen property in a trailer, and delivered it to another suspect. Booking was the same. And third suspect, Davis Jaimes, male Hispanic, 19 years old, received stolen property at a non-commercial location, concealed in a horse trailer. He was booked for receiving stolen property. And the fourth suspect, Luis Palma, male Hispanic, 17 years old, during probation compliance. A loaded firearm was recovered inside his bedroom. He was booked for minor in possession of a firearm. 3 of the 4 suspects were Los Angeles residents. On September 6, 2025, at about 3:40 a.m., officers responded to the McDonald's parking lot located near Romaine Street and Western Avenue following a traffic collision. An argument between the involved parties escalated into a physical altercation. During the confrontation, a 21-year-old male suspect, Humberto Delgado, produced a firearm and fired multiple rounds. A 36-year-old male victim was struck and later pronounced deceased at a local hospital. The second victim, a 35-year-old female who was standing nearby, was also struck and is in stable condition. The suspect remained at the scene, cooperated with officers, and was taken into custody. He's been booked and is being held on $100,000 bail. The investigation is being handled by Robbery Homicide Division, West Bureau Section. As of the week ending September 6th, for the most recent 4-week period, August 10th through the September 6th, we've seen an 8.6% decrease in combined person and property crimes compared to the prior 4 weeks. Person crimes themselves are slightly up at 0.4%, or 7 crimes, and property crimes are down 11.2%, or almost 700 less crimes. Year-to-date homicides are down 23.7%, with 50 fewer lives lost compared to this time last year. We've seen an uptick over the past 4 weeks, however. Victims shot year-to-date numbers show a 6.9% reduction, or 50 fewer victims compared to last year. Aggravated assaults rose 4.1% over the last 4 weeks. Robberies citywide are down 2.8% over the last 4 weeks. West Valley saw the most significant increase, up 12 cases, 77th up 9 cases. Strong-arm robberies remain the largest share at 49% of total robberies, though they're down 3%. Firearm-involved robberies are down 14.6%, and robberies at Estes-type locations like retail stores are down almost 13%. On burglaries, we saw a 10.3% decrease in burglaries citywide over the last 4 weeks. Residential burglaries down almost 13%. The largest increases were in Devonshire, Olympic, and Rampart. Non-residential burglaries fell 6%. Devonshire experienced the most significant increase with 9 additional cases. On motor vehicle theft, they're down 3.1%, or 45 fewer vehicles taken. Silverados, Tacoma, Accord, Sonata, and Optima are among the most frequently stolen models. A report on our personnel strength. Sworn personnel as of August 8th is 8,702. Civilian personnel staffing is at 2,585, and we currently have 343 reserve officers. Something that was topical in the news, the Los Angeles Police Department assisted the California Highway Patrol with a protective detail involving former Vice President Kamala Harris. Our department provided support for this assignment over a 7-day period. That mission has now concluded, and we're no longer engaged in that detail, as has been reported. The LAPD remains committed to working alongside CHP as well as all of our local, state, and federal partners whenever public safety requires that. Yesterday, the Supreme Court issued a ruling regarding the resumption of federal civil immigration enforcement, and I just want to be very clear with our community. Nothing about this ruling changes how the LAPD serves you. As they outlined in our Special Order 40 last June, LAPD officers do not take part in civil immigration enforcement. That has not changed and will not change because of this ruling. Our mission is public safety, protecting victims, preventing crime, and building trust within the communities that we serve. You should know that our officers will not request information regarding a person's immigration status while performing their police duties. We want all residents, regardless of background or status, to feel safe calling us for help, reporting a crime, or working with us as partners. Los Angeles is a city built on diversity, and the safety of every person here is our top priority. You have our continued commitment that LAPD is here to protect and serve all of our communities with fairness, dignity, and respect. That concludes my report this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for that report. Excuse me. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for that report on the recent Supreme Court decision. I wanted to touch on that specifically because the resumption of the federal civil immigration enforcement here in LA will be pretty significant. And I know that the department does not participate in civil immigration enforcement, but given that many communities are fearful, you have already reiterated what the officers can or cannot do. And I believe that your comment about keeping our community safe is very important. And again, thank you for your report, and we do expect that to be the case in our community. Okay, I'd like to also open it, any questions up to each of the commissioners regarding the full police, the chief of police report. And I will start with Dr. Errol Southers. Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, you mentioned that the frequency of officer-involved shootings was significant in South Bureau. I just wanted to know if there's been any enhanced deployment or other strategy with regards to that particular bureau and this uptick in officer-involved shootings.
Thank you for that. Not specifically to the officer-involved shooting locations, but rather we do enhanced deployment based on the needs, upticks in crime patterns, trends that we see. We deploy according to that. As you know, that the officer-involved shootings can't be predicted where they're going to be. It's one of those situations where the situation often evolves very quickly. Officers respond to that threat, and we end up with an officer-involved shooting. So we do deploy our resources as strategically as we can, using crime data as best we can.
Thank you. And the other question I have is regarding deployment. Do we still have officers deployed in the Palisades for any traffic control or crime suppression there?
We have routine patrols there. I'd have to get you an updated number of how many people we have out there, but it's, well, we feel like we're deploying appropriately to be able to maintain public safety for the area. The numbers are not what they were during the critical period of the fire and the follow-up of that.
Okay, thank you. Those
you.
are all my questions, Madam President.
Thank you. Commissioner Rasha Verduccio, Commissioner?
Thank you, President Sanchez-Gordon, and congratulations again on your appointment. And thank you, Chief, for the report. I had a few questions. First, a statement about the officer-involved shooting at Southwest. Given that the individual fired multiple rounds inside the liquor store, I'm thankful that neither the police officers or any of the workers or other customers in the liquor store were not injured, and that he was apprehended. With regards to the incident that you mentioned on September 4th, involving, I believe it was a woman with a butcher knife who was barricaded, and Metropolitan, the division responded with the SWAT team. Can you repeat? I caught some of it. That it sounded like there was a taser used, and then also, was it sage rounds? Is that less lethal use of force that was used?
Yeah, it was a taser shockwave, which Metropolitan Division deploys in situations like this. It's effective in being able to take somebody into custody in a way that is a less lethal device. Likewise with the sage rounds, those are also less lethal rounds used by Metropolitan Division for situations like this. Somebody who's armed with a knife, there's a standoff distance, but they have an ability to be able to try and exhaust all less lethal options before you'd have to go to something lethal.
And during that incident, did any officers actually use lethal firearms in that incident?
I don't believe there was any shots fired. She was taken into custody without injury, to my knowledge. I'll have to get a briefing up. I'm just back, so a briefing up on the specifics of this case.
Thank you. I think that, could potentially be a very good example of kind of lessons learned, and hopefully can be educational for others as to the use of these other less lethal uses of force to try to de-escalate a situation so that lethal use of force is not needed when someone is armed with a firearm. And I do believe that, the SWAT team is normally embedded with a mental health professional from behavioral services sciences. Madam President, we may want to invite BSS to come speak to us a little bit at another future commission meeting about their involvement responding to these types of incidences and the support that they provide officers on the scene, so that they know how to handle and deal with people potentially going through mental health crises. So I think that was something that may be helpful for the future. And thank you again for the report on the significant arrests. And it's disappointing and really sad to see the rise in hate crimes and hate incidences. And I'm glad that the department is taking those seriously and looking to apprehend the suspect that was involved in those incidences, and continuing additional patrol in those sensitive areas. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next is Commissioner Fabian Garcia.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Chief, and congratulations,
Morning,
President Sanchez-Gordon. Chief, thank you for the further explanation and context on some of the use of force. So we'd like to continue hearing that, and then obviously figuring out from some of that information and other means to reduce those use of force incidents. So I'm looking forward to
Sure.
having those conversations, and I know shortly we'll be hearing more about that. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chief, I do have a follow-up question on the 31 officer-involved shootings that you've just reported on, and specifically that the largest amount came from the Southwest Bureau. You indicated that there were several that came under mental illness, but only 1/3 of the time less lethal weapons were used. I want to know, if there's so much officer-involved shootings that do involve mental illness, why can we not increase that 1/3 use of less lethal means, especially when, in many times, there is evidence of some mental illness, either they have a weapon or a sharp-edged weapon. Can we increase that type of response,
You know, it's
less lethal?
it's foremost on everybody's mind to always use less lethal when the option is available. Basically, time, talk, and tactics is what's drilled into all of our officers when you're out there and employing talk, try and de-escalate the situation as best we can. When pushed to use less lethal, and then only as a final option to use lethal force. Oftentimes, time is what drives the inability to be able to deploy less lethal. If somebody is armed with a gun, then you don't have the opportunity to be able to use less lethal. You have to be able to use what you can to direct them to drop the weapon and to surrender. But when there's an opportunity and somebody's armed with a bat or pipe or a knife, then and you have an ability to have a standoff distance between the officers, the public, and the suspect, then certainly less lethal is the first thought and what is deployed regularly. A third of the time, that opportunity was available in the cases looked at. But certainly, we're always trying to put ourselves in a position of advantage when we get a call or we make an observation that we don't get any closer than we absolutely need to the suspect. So we have the benefit of time and distance to be able to try and de-escalate a situation, and then only going to lethal force when absolutely no other alternative is available.
Thank you, Chief. And I think it is warranted that we have a report on what the Bureau, or what the department has regarding the issue of mental health professionals and their involvement, and we will put that on the calendar for the
Great.
future.
Thank you. Thank you.
No. All right, we enter into the public comment period. We will have 45 minutes for all items. Madam Secretary?
Okay. The first speaker is Andrew Graebner.
So we've got the new commission president. I'm not sure who should be more embarrassed here. Rasha, who was passed up completely for the president position despite being vice president, or Teresa up there, who's basically just being appointed as a stand-in before you put Errol again as president for the Olympics, basically. So that you haven't really said much, but I mean, you have an opportunity. You're a new president. You have an opportunity to actually do a few things that are going to be beneficial. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but who knows? Maybe you can move these meetings to the evening, make sure everyone's able to speak, have them not here, actually maybe start holding this department accountable a little bit. I don't know, but I don't expect anything like that. I don't have much confidence in this commission. So let's move on to the chief's report, which should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the chief's report exceeds 3 minutes, we shall match the amount of time the chief takes. Regardless of how long the chief takes to give his report, everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. So once again, the chief was lying today. So you keep claiming that LAPD does not assist ICE. Yet they were on camera in the last week assisting ICE. In the last week, the LAPD repeatedly assists ICE, both directly and indirectly, both indirectly by sending data to ICE through all these crime tracking systems or whatever, and indirectly to ICE, directly to ICE by showing up when ICE does their raids and protecting ICE and attacking protesters. And like they've been repeatedly attacking that protest not too far from here that's been going on near the federal detention center, the LAPD shows up regularly to attack protesters there, to assist ICE. So it's a lie to say that the LAPD does not assist ICE, because they do. So stop lying and stop assisting ICE. But, of course, it's on you to fire this guy for continuously lying, for continuously assisting ICE, but you won't do it because you don't actually hold this department accountable at all. So, not much time for the consent agenda, but a lot of shit on that. No on all the consent agenda items. The LAPD is shooting more and more people every day, and it's getting worse and you won't hold them accountable. I guess we have no idea what your strategic plan is for 2026 since you didn't actually attach it to the agenda here. Errol, your term is expired.
Okay. Madam President, we have family from today's closed session speaking over Zoom. Ms. Sindra?
Yes, please call.
Hi. Hi, good morning. My name is Indra Griffin Valdio, and I'm going to be speaking on behalf of my brother, Sean Phillip Griffin. I just wanted to say that my brother's story is hard to tell because it's filled with both promise and heartbreak. He was a smart, capable, and in college, and he showed that what he could achieve, keeping over a GPA of 3.0, but his addiction is a powerful enemy, and meth stole the best parts of his life. His choices and devastating consequences of an innocent man lost his life, and my brother's own life ended in tragedy. I will never excuse what he did, but I will always remember that he was my brother, a loved person. He struggled, and a person whose story became a warning. If anything we can take from this is the truth, addiction doesn't break one's life, it breaks families, communities, and sometimes innocent strangers. My hope is that by remembering his honesty, we also remember the importance of compassion, prevention, and healing, and the fact that that Valley Plaza area is being looked at by the city council to close down. It's drug infested. It has a shelter. It has excuse me. It's just a toxic environment. And I just think that the police need to be more aware of de-escalating situations. I understand what he did wasn't right, and I don't justify that, but I just think that they needed to have more empathy for my brother. He was shot 5 times. And he was very high on methamphetamines, which plays a part in the drug-infested area. I just think that was just really, really wrong. And I just wish that you guys could be better educated on people that are that have an addiction, that are on drugs. And people lose their lives over this because people make rash decisions in the moment. And he was a really good person. He helped his community. He gave back. He was struggling. If there was more opportunity and more help for people that are struggling with addiction, instead of doing other things with the money, we need to help our communities because we're struggling with addiction, and the police aren't helping us. They're treating the people like they're wrong when they're sick. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker. Oh, I'm sorry. The next speaker, Margarita Carranza.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Margarita Maria Carranza. I have been here before, and I'm struggling with my health to get here and plead with you. Chief Jim McDonald, I'm pleading with you to oversee my complaint issued against attorneys. White-collar, multi-million-dollar complaint on my disability from City of Los Angeles property and the property owner. This was a multi-million-dollar complaint, and the city sued the property owner to pay half of my injuries, whereas these attorneys never had a retainer signed by me or any authorization signed by me. These guys are, Chigual Martinian is specialized 20 years in criminal law. He is defending himself and his assistant, attorney Susanna Abrahamian, a property specialist, okay? Both of them together have injured and defrauded not just me, they have defrauded the city and the property owners because they sued each other to pay half of the injuries, and yet the checks were made payable to the attorney's law firm without me, without my knowledge. Every check that was issued that these attorneys have presented to me have been altered. I brought to you legal evidence $25,000 that they made a mistake and emailed to me. It was a check issued from AAA to Martinian and Associates. It was a check for my liability, and these attorneys said that it was written wrongfully. They have defrauded the city, the defendant, the property owner, the medical liens. They never subjected any payments to any medical liens, and they gave me a document to sign that I authorized this, that I authorized Tigran Martinian to deposit the checks. I never authorized anything. They came out with an computerized signature using my initials. I don't sign with initials. Not one signature of mine has been presented, Margarita Carranza. They have presented nothing but bogus initials to contracts. These are attorneys. They know better. They robbed me, and I need you, Chief McDonald, to please overlook on this. Detective Ward has failed me completely. Please.
Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Sorry.
Good morning.
What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yes. First, I'd like to say that all lives matter. And looking at the crime stat snapshot, it really needs to be examined and overhauled because the information is incomplete and it's hard to use. For example, the LAPD doesn't know how many arrests have been made through June 30th. How is that possible? The property crime, personal crime, you don't know what those numbers are. By the way, this is reported crime that we're talking about when we do get numbers. So when the chief reports the numbers, that's only reported crime. A vast amount of crime is unreported. And I'll refer you to larceny theft offenses. The number is 4,158. Does anyone really believe that is the real number? It is probably double, triple, or more than that number. We're only getting a snapshot that is inaccurate and incomplete and misleading. And sometimes for political reasons, in certain cities like Los Angeles and New York, the administrations are trying to convince you that crime is down. In some cases, it is down. For example, on homicides. But how many homicides is enough? We have normalized high crime in certain categories, and it's unacceptable. Has anybody read the organizational assessment of the LAPD RAND Corporation? It's at the top of the website, lapdonline.org. Has anybody read it? I haven't heard it discussed. There may be some good information there that can help the police commission lead the LAPD to where it needs to be, especially in the area of community policing. There are people who come onto this meeting and they describe the LAPD and police as descendants of slave catchers. Now, no one has actually pushed back on that, but the kind of language that those people use, and they use the word comrade, they give themselves away by their language and their actions. And it's important to know where they're coming from. They want to abolish the police, not to reform the police, not to help implement community policing, not for the purpose of improving public safety. It's an ideology, and it needs to be confronted. Does anybody remember Myrna Sosa, who was murdered on the subway? Go back and look at the incident if you don't remember it. She was victimized by a repeat offender, just in the same way that in Charlotte, North Carolina, Irina Zarutska, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, was murdered on their public transportation. We have repeat offenders that have emotional problems and criminal backgrounds that are severe. The society has to work together, local, state, federal, all the different agencies, social work.
The next speaker is Gabriel Welna.
Good morning. My name is, first, congratulations, President Teresa Sanchez Gordon. I do believe you're the right person for the position at this specific time. I'm a columnist for LA Taco, and the reason I'm here today is yesterday the Supreme Court case. Specifically, the Supreme Court case was Christine Nome versus Pedro Vasquez Perdomo. And in this quick time, I want to really create the nexus, Chief, between yesterday's case and LAPD and the policies that we believe that you specifically need to denounce, the commission and the city council. In the Supreme Court with Kavanaugh specifically, he put a four-part test. The four-part test was that there was a high number of immigrants, that those immigrants had to be in certain locations, and that specifically, and that they speak more Spanish or other languages than English, and they be of Mexico and Central America. What most people are not identifying right now in the discussion with regard to what happened yesterday is that for the first time since Plessy v. Ferguson, de facto segregation is being agreed to or being promoted by the Supreme Court of the United States. While our police commission is saying we're not ICE, we're not doing that. However, in anything that is support of ICE, especially since ICE is saying right now anything that in Kavanaugh's arguments, he says we can use apparent ethnicity. We can use apparent ethnicity. So as we move forward in understanding the role that race is playing, specifically in the Supreme Court, and that race is now being specifically allowed because his concurrence was specifically allowed in targeting Mexicans and Central Americans, which is between 50 and 60% of Los Angeles. And specifically, also in Kavanaugh he says, under the court's precedent, not to mention common sense. So to Justice Kavanaugh, common sense means if you're brown, if you're in an area supposedly of like a Home Depot or in construction, and you speak another language, you are now a target. You can be pulled over. So for the LAPD, the question is, will we denounce and say we will not follow the Supreme Court and not follow the Supreme Court and make sure that racial profiling and a message to the entire country that racial profiling is not acceptable at all. And finally, to our president, felicidades y tu comunidad está muy orgullosa de usted. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. The next speaker is Big Amy.
Yeah, good morning. I want to understand what items or what produces your attitude or your vulgarity to attack people for, in your eyes, you believe it's a weapon. You know, in my hand, it could be construed as a weapon, right? If I go like this, it looks like a rifle, right? Not necessarily, but in your eyes, it's a rifle, right? If I point it at you, then it becomes a weapon, right? So I think what the public and in these moron educational nimblesoles have to teach is that there's two sides to every coin. And so far, you've failed at that. Like when you shot the gentleman at the Costco for being disabled. What was that about? Then you shoot the two parents on top of that. So you've not done or have addressed the issue on what we assume you're responsible to do, serve and protect. Also, the First Amendment under U.S. 395 444 1969, Brandenburg versus Ohio, I believe Southers is a racist. He can't admit to the words that he and I were both exposed to. And he says, I'm violating the First Amendment. It specifically states that the United States Supreme Court ruled in that action that my protected free speech is free speech. And that's why the DOJ, under the wonderful Pamela Bondi, is going to investigate this against Los Angeles, because you, sir, you, madams, you, board, are acting like racists, prejudiced, oink oinks. Using words in a public hearing is not vulgar. It may be vulgar in your eyes, in your ears, and what tickles you, but it is music, lyrics of the injustice that we as minorities, as civilians suffer on a daily basis, as you're gonna hear today in their outspokenness against the police. Yeah, I do say fuck the police, but it's just a song. Yeah, I do say fuck the DA, but it's all about Little Boozy. So whatever way and whatever manner you think I'm being a racist or I'm using a Nazi sign to symbolize Torrance police officers, fuck you. Matter of fact, as Ozzy Osbourne said, let's all get crazy. Southers, for the record, thank you, sir. I'm glad you. Did I get one more minute? Was that my 3 minutes, ma'am?
Your 3 minutes.
I get my public comment, right? 3 minutes. So, on record, I'm turning in my beautiful
You get
sign.
2 minutes plus 1 minute for public comment, so you've had your.
So have I exhausted my 3 minutes?
You have. Thank
Okay,
you.
because I can't count. So I'm turning this slip in for the record for this department, please. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, Earl. I love
The
you.
next speaker is Diego.
Yeah, we have indifferences, Earl, but I love you. Yes.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam President. We look forward to your wonderful leadership on this commission. Thank you to the commissioners for having us here this morning, and thank you, Chief McDonald, for being here. My name is Diego Arp, and I'm the president of the Mexican American Bar Association of Los Angeles County. The Mexican American Bar Association is an association of law students, attorneys, judges, and other legal professionals who seek to advance education, the rule of law, equal rights, and social justice within our community and throughout the state of California, not just for Latinos, but for everyone. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this morning and to convey our deep gratitude and respect for the Los Angeles Police Department and the officers who are dedicated to protecting and serving the people of Los Angeles. We recognize that the job of protecting and serving the people of Los Angeles has been made infinitely more difficult by the unlawful and unconstitutional practices of the Trump administration. The administration's blatant disregard for this Constitution, the rule of law, and our societal norms is on display daily and has caused much suffering within our city, our state, and our country. Yesterday, the Supreme Court issued another interim opinion that will make your job even more difficult, as it will allow the Trump administration to continue those egregious and detrimental practices such as racial profiling, unconstitutional searches and seizures, unlawful arrests and detentions, and unnecessary and unlawful use of force against the people of Los Angeles and Southern California, until the lawsuits addressing these issues make their way back up to the Supreme Court. Justice Sotomayor has said, we should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job. Rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost, I dissent. The people of Los Angeles will dissent too. In opposition to these unconstitutional and unlawful practices, we know that there will be protests and demonstrations as the public seeks to redress these grievances by lawfully marching and demonstrating against them. The public has shown enormous restraint during these times and has obeyed the law while conducting marches in almost all instances. As police officers who have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of our state and nation, we ask that you show restraint when enforcing our laws and truly protect and serve the people by not using unnecessary force, by avoiding targeting journalists and protesters, and by understanding that the public has the right to record events as they occur that are in the public domain. We love our city, we love our community, and we stand together united in keeping the peace. Thank you.
The next speaker, please, William Good.
Good morning. So yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that federal law enforcement are allowed to racially profile people in their activities. And we're upset about it. But yet at the same time, this police force right here does that every fucking day in our communities. Now, later on, you guys are going to go into closed session, and you're going to be discussing a complaint, CF number 25-000353. That's a complaint I filed against Jim McDonald right there for his part of covering up in an investigation. There was a lady who was assaulted. She filmed the assault. She called the police. The police came. She showed the police the video. They arrested the suspect. But then they found out that the suspect is politically connected and is a business owner in Hollywood, so they drove him around the corner and dropped them off. The victim found out about this, and she went to the Hollywood police station to get answers, as anybody would and should. As soon as she got there, they told her she could not film inside the station. After they've already started covering up their misconduct, now they don't want her to film, which is a violation of the First Amendment, a violation of PC 148G. They called me and asked me to come to the station to help them out. I got there, they told me unlawfully that I had to stop filming, that I could not record the interaction. And the detective ran, said, yeah, I'm citing 148G of the Penal Code, which explicitly gives you the right to film cops. But these fucking detectives don't even know the laws. So I filed a complaint, and you know what? They came back and said, you know what? The cop did nothing wrong. I appealed to this guy right here, and he said, you know what? The LAPD fucked up. It should have been a sustained complaint. Now, this guy right here, McDonald, signed off on the complaint. So the complaint letterhead I got, your name's on the top and in the signature area. You failed in your duties of oversight. I filed a complaint on him. You guys are discussing it today. You guys better sustain that complaint against him, or I'm coming after all of you. I will show up in your fucking neighborhoods, and your neighbors will know about me. We'll learn about all these stories about how you're covering up his shit. Now, this asshole right here, I told you when you contacted me for an interview about the complaint, and I told you send all the questions in writing, as I've been doing for 5 fucking years. And you refused. Rasha, I appealed to you. I said, why isn't he sending me the questions? Nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. But you know what? We got an ex-prosecutor here, a cop, a judge, just a body. Rasha is a prosecutor. These are all law enforcement and law enforcement adjacent people who have been appointed by Karen Bass. I'm tired of you covering up their shit. You guys better fucking sustain the complaint. Like I said, I am coming to your fucking neighborhoods. Enjoy your day.
The next speaker, Audit LA.
Good morning. Mine's a little different. We asked the chief to find safe officers where victims can come forward and speak freely and be heard and felt heard. And that has happened, and I am grateful. My only concern now is at this point, I know that more victims will come forward, but I'm afraid that Scientology is going to do all that they do to squash everything. I guarantee you, I know they're already on it, saying what's going on, and they're going to use all their influence, whether it's from CPAB or all the money they've donated or whatever other influence. And when I tell you that, like when the detectives' jaws dropped I'm not exaggerating. There's a lot of stuff that I don't even fully have gotten into. You need to look into it, Chief. I'm asking you directly to please look into it and to please not allow Scientology to derail any investigations. And also to know that they will fair game. They did with the Danny Masterson case. They went after police and prosecutors and victims and, you know, and witnesses. So I'm going to say for the record, I'm not suicidal. And if anything happens to me or any of the victims or anyone coming forward or anyone helping in this, that to look to Kirsten Peterson and Kendrick Moxon. Kirsten Peterson answers directly to David Miscavige. And I am putting it out there because I am concerned for our safety. We are making tremendous waves. But there are crimes, and there's other cults that have been exposed for the different, you know, things that they've done. But there's stuff here that needs to be dealt with. It cannot be overlooked any longer. I don't know how it's been overlooked as long as it has been. It's under your noses. And you're about to get a book. We're just waiting for the author of the book to write a note to everybody. Where, you know, people around the world have collected this book, and Laura here has a copy of it. And it's a young man who's one experience, and he represents many children that were raised right here in Los Angeles and East Hollywood, and the hell that they went through, the abuse, the utter, what they went through, and seniors are going through stuff like that. It should never have happened. It's been going on for decades, stuff happening. And they, you know, they hide it and they get away with it because they build this front with you guys. You know, oh, we're great. We're here to help the police. We're going to, you know, give you money. We're going to do cleanups. And they're hiding a lot of crimes. And yes, I do fear for them sometimes, but I'm still speaking and I'm going to keep speaking.
Thank you. The next speaker is Laura Anderson.
Hi, good, I'll follow up on that. So we did get a group of people in the Northeast Police Division, and it's completely exhausting mentally for me to have to go over childhood abuse from 50 years ago. Okay, so I brought all these books. God, this fucking microphone sucks. I brought all these books. These are just a few. And these have the evidence. Nobody's allowed to write a book stating crimes that happened in the cult of Scientology from over 50 years ago. These people, this is just from people who have written books in the last 10 years. So my voice is not just my story, my PTSD, my shaking, my upset, my anger is not just mine. We never had a voice. The policy letters of Scientology say we are not allowed to report to authorities. That's why the internal police officers helping me just with my story and what happened with me. It's insane. They don't know what to do because this has been happening for fucking 60 years. There's a book from Amy Scobie at the Scientology, at Abuses at the Top. A former top insider reveals the nightmare world of violence and abuse at the highest levels of the Church of Scientology. This is all in Los Angeles, okay? Child X, this is Jamie Mustard's book. He was a baby, an infant in the 80s before I was born. A couple years later, I was born. He would read this fucking book. It's insane. He was abandoned from his very wealthy family. Counter Dreams, Jefferson Hawkins. These are all older men now. 50, 60, 80 years old, telling their stories. The Expert Witness, Jesse Prince. This book literally explains Operation Snow White and how Kendrick Moxon and a bunch of other executives in the cult currently of Scientology, David Miscavige, overturned the government, the IRS, and got their tax-free exempt status that they still hold to hide all the crimes. They write and film and record all the crimes that they're exposing and blackmailing people about. Beyond beliefs, Jenna Miscavige, child born and raised just like I was, completely different story, at the same compound that I went to. There are so many books inside Scientology. Janet, please take the time and do the research.
The next speaker is Amy's next husband.
Good morning. So several issues. Number one, I'm very concerning to hear the numbers, Chief. Is like you said, a 47% increase in officer-involved shooting. I am very well aware this career is one of the most dangerous career in the United States, in the world, and obviously that right now the officers are facing more danger more than ever. The ICE director, they just said repeatedly over and over again, there are more than 700% attack against ICE and other Homeland Security officers. And then I believe that's the same issues on the LAPD. I don't know the numbers, but it seems like very, very high. So that's number one. I want to make sure commissioners and then the chiefs and everybody to make sure that your officer safety is your number one priority. Number two, I heard several meetings, President Southers are talking about using the word protest. I really disagree with President Southers' use of the word protest, because I don't know how many of you are actually in there. I was 2 or 3 times I was in there. That's not a protest. And I actually ask you, Chief, and including President Southers, you go outside of the street right there. There's a gentleman. There's a gentleman outside of the on the street right there holding a sign. I think is every Tuesday whenever you have a meeting. That's the definition of protest. He is bothering no traffic. He is creating no disturbance. He is holding a sign. He's walking peacefully. He's minding his own business. That is the definition of the word protest. However, whenever those so-called Jason Reedy Loving Russia Shield are talking about protest, we are talking about throwing objects to the officers. We are talking about randomly taking over the freeway. We are talking about a refuse to obey a lawful order. We are talking about remain in the middle of the intersection when the LAPD give you 10 warnings that you are ordered to disperse. They give you 10, 20 times dispersal order, and you continue to remain right there. How is that a protest, Mr. Southers? How is that a protest? I really disagree with your usage of the word protest. I was right there for 3 days, protest, including that No Kings protest. When the officer tells me, leave the area immediately, I left. I never get any shot. I never get any bullet. I never get any physical contact with any law enforcement officer. That just demonstrates to shows you how to protest the correctly, the safe way, and how to do that the legal way.
The next speaker, Ms. Bates. Okay. Dr. Abdullah.
Hi, I'm Melina Abdullah. I organize with Black Lives Matter Grassroots and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. And there's several things that I want to lift up. One, I don't know how you're not sounding the alarms when 31 people have been shot so far this year by LAPD. I don't know how this oversight body is not overseeing and demanding something different. We're talking about the highest number on record, the highest number in the entire nation. Also, I want everybody to be aware that what was just said in the chief's report, we do have some power, y'all. Stop calling the police for quote unquote help When you call the police for help, they kill us, right? We need community answers, community solutions. We keep us safe. They kill our people. Next, I also want to say that as I was looking at the data, because we have to pull our own data on what's happening with these killings. When we were going through all of the killings of 2024, you all are out of compliance with AB 953. There is no collection of racial data that's published on the LAPD website, which is required by law. Instead, researchers have to do the painstaking work of watching every single body cam video and then determining from names and watching those very traumatic accounts of what the racial makeup of these killings are. Clearly, you know the information, but you're not sharing the information, or this racist ass police chief is not sharing the information because they don't want to be clear that they are killing Black and brown people. Lastly, I want to say that it's disgusting that you allow Errol Southers to sit among you. Errol Southers is a IOF-trained FBI agent who's scared of protest, who's anti-Muslim, anti-Black, who's seeding the Trump administration and the fascists by making the argument that people like me who are adherents to Islam are quote-unquote homegrown terrorists. Really, the people like you are homegrown terrorists. You terrorize communities. You terrorize people when we dare to speak up and speak out. You are the terrorists. We are the purveyors of justice. And then lastly, the idea that McDonald is somehow not all of a sudden complying with ICE. Remember, McDonald was so bad on immigration issues that voters preferred Alex Villanueva to his ass. That McDonald is so anti-Brown that they voted him out of the sheriff's seat. So the idea that he'd somehow direct LAPD to not collaborate with ICE is not only what he's not doing now, it's also what he's never done. He's always been anti-Brown. He's always been a deporter. He's always been a collaborator, and he's always been a fascist.
The next speaker, please, is Alejandro Benavides. Alejandro Benavides. Alejandra.
Commissioners and Chief McDonald. My name is Alejandra, and I am a parishioner at Dolores Mission Church and a member of LA Voice. LA Voice is a multi-faith community of over 65 congregations representing 40,000 families here in Los Angeles County. We stand in solidarity with each other and advocate for a just society. First, I would like to congratulate the President of the Commission, Teresa Sanchez Gordon, for the new responsibilities that she assumes today. My community and I expect that the change in leadership in the Commission will lead to a new way of responding to this current moment, with masked men taking members of our community off the street because of where they gather or go to work and the color of their skin. Secondly, we would like to know the degree to which LAPD is following Mayor Bass's order from December 2024 and Chief McDonald's revision of the LAPD policy in February of 2025, which prohibits city personnel or resources for being used in immigration activities. When will we have a factual account of how LAPD officer time and resources have been used around ICE activities in the city? Lastly, it is crucial the Commission work with the Chief and his staff to reestablish trust with the people of Los Angeles. The LAPD's logistical support of ICE enforcement actions this summer in our communities have eroded public trust. It is the LAPD's mission to protect and serve the people of Los Angeles. We saw LAPD working crowd control in June's ICE raids and then again responding with force when Angelenos exercised their First Amendment rights. Who was the LAPD protecting and serving then? And when will they protect and serve the most vulnerable among us? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Jonathan Foster.
Jonathan Foster. They were yelling at the 12% increase in shooting suspects, and there's not a lawsuit filed. This is the perfect examples come together right before me, how they're yelling and berating the LAPD that the suspect is forcing the LAPD to shoot them. And I don't say this to denigrate this voice. What I'm saying this is actually so you get what you want. Last meeting and 2 weeks ago, that's what they did. Today they're doing that to do with, but these people have lawyers in their pocket and money to do so, is to sue and change the city charter, which would mandate a change in the police handbook. Without this change, nothing here means anything. Everybody, what everything said here means nothing without moving policy and money. It's a waste of time. If the people who are lawyers and have money don't sue the city charter, you're a fucking waste of goddamn time. The LAPD adding ICE freed many children used, exploited, and abused in forced labor, sexual exploitation, human trafficking, child exploitation, online abuse, unsanitary conditions for children, and forced labor. These parts make me very proud of the LAPD. Thanks, Jim. So let's not get lost, though, Jim, because we got to get back to the 2% that's gross, because people are getting hurt. Major felony crime is being committed by the LAPD, the city. Okay, it has murdered Linda Sarah Moran, Yang Yang, Gresario Mack, Eric Rivera, things like this. But not what the illegal aliens have murdered. You people are in denial and misinformed to the real number of angel families. These people randomly murdered with interactions, not like a military. The LAPD gets called about 1 to 6 people, small groups committing crime, and then they point the gun at the LAPD, and then you get mad about this. Well, that's what the LAPD is for, unless you're mandating a lawsuit against the charter. Shut up talking about the LAPD shooting people. These illegal aliens that you support have killed 6+ million people here. Jamil Shaw put his hand up. He was shot in the torso, then he shot him through the hand and killed him. A black guy. None of you spoke up about this. None of you spoke up about this. You're all murderers. Every single one of you people on the street are murderers. Murderers.
Madam President, we have reached our 45 minutes allotted time for public comment, and we have 16 cards left.
Every item and then comment. That's what you just said, bum. Cheap bum.
We have 16 cards left.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. This concludes public comment. The commission will now take a 10-minute break.
Madam President, for the record, we're now back in open session. We'll now move to consent agenda items A through E. Do any commissioners wish to pull any items? Okay, no. Do I have a motion to approve items A through E?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, passes A through E. Now we'll move on.
We have to vote.
Oh, sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed say no. Okay, seeing none, that motion passes A through E. Now we'll move on to regular agenda items. We have the verbal presentation, 2024 Use of Force Year-End Review. We have Captain Pluggy. And a PowerPoint. Okay, let me bring it up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief, Mr. Sibley, Mr. Berrigan, City Attorney. Good morning. So, as indicated, I've been called here today to present the Use of Force Year-End Review for 2024. So first, I would just like to describe how this book gets compiled. This book is compiled completely in-house by sworn and civilian staff within Critical Incident Review Division. So within our staff, we have part-time photographers, we have copy editors, we have graphic designers. The entire book is put together by our sworn and civilian staff, so I'd first just like to recognize just the incredible amount of work and effort that the men and women, sworn and civilian, within Critical Incident Review Division put in to produce this book, which I believe, through looking across the country, really is probably one of the most comprehensive and transparent views of police use of forces in the nation. It really is a one-of-a-kind production. So with that, this introduction, it will include a brief overview of the types of data that's found in the report, and I'll end the presentation with information on how the public can access the report when it's approved by the commission. So as you can see here, this is the first slide. This is just some of the types of data that is in the end of year-end review. As you can see, Los Angeles police officers in 2024 engaged in over 1.1 million documented public contacts. These documented public contacts include not only calls for service, but also those officer-initiated activities that result in detentions in the field. What it does not account for are some of our other casual contacts, which would include consensual encounters and just general interviews of witnesses and other folks that don't fall within the parameters of a detention or a radio call response. As you can see in these statistics, of the total contacts in 2024, 31% of those contacts were officer-initiated. Of all those contacts, of all the 1.1 million, 3.9% of those public contacts resulted in arrests. Of those arrests, less than 3.4% of those arrests resulted in any application of any type of reportable use of force. Only 13% of all of our total documented public 0.13%, so less than 1% of all of our total public contacts result in any application of force, and it's even a smaller number for officer-involved shootings. It's 0.0029% of any public contact that will result in an officer-involved shooting. So I think, as you can see, the numbers will bear out that the vast majority of all public contacts that Los Angeles police officers have do not result in any application of reportable force. As you'll read in the book, you'll notice that the department classifies or categorizes uses of force into two different categories. We have what the department describes as categorical uses of force and non-categorical uses of force. And a categorical use of force, as you see on the slide, is defined as any officer-involved shooting. That would include animal shootings. It would include an unintentional discharge of a firearm, either in a tactical or a non-tactical environment. It would include the investigation of the firing of warning shots, any in-custody death, any intentional head strike, the use of a carotid or a chokehold, or any other force that is deemed to be deadly. It also includes any use of force that results in a subject's hospitalization as a result of an application of force. These are commonly known as law enforcement-related injuries. Categorical use of forces also include canine contacts that result in hospitalizations, and any use of force that the chief of police directs to be investigated by Force Investigation Division. So these are just some of the statistics that are gathered as it relates to categorical uses of force. As you can see, in 2024, we had a total of 52 categorical use of force investigations. This represents a 24% decrease from the year prior. The largest categories that we saw reductions in were canine contacts, as well as animal OISs. Our canine contacts were down in 2024 to 1 from 6 the prior year, and animal OIS incidents were down to 2 from 5 in the year prior. In 2024, the city of Los Angeles experienced a 15% reduction in officer-involved shootings. Los Angeles police officers were involved in 29 officer-involved shootings compared to 34 the year prior. This slide represents the types of weapon systems that the suspects use that precipitate officer-involved shootings. As you can see, in 2024, officers were confronted by suspects armed with edge weapons 6 times, which was down from 12 the year prior. The number of times officers confront suspects that are armed with firearms remained generally steady between 23 and 24. We did see an increase of 1 in 2024, up from 13 to 14. In 2024, of the 29 officer-involved shootings, 12 of them resulted in the suspect being deceased. 12 suspects were injured. 5 of those incidents, suspects were uninjured. Comparing that with the officers' resulting injuries, we had 11 officers that were injured during officer-involved shooting incidents last year. As you can see, the trend for that rose over the years. As you can see, the officers injured in 2024 equaled essentially the 2 years prior. In addition to the non-categorical use of force, we also captured data that is related to our less serious, but the non-lethal applications of force, and those would be our non-categorical uses of force. And so we define a non-categorical use of force really as any use of physical force by a department employee on or off duty where they're forced to use physical force or a device to compel somebody to comply with the officer's direction or effect an arrest or defend themselves or another. So our non-categorical use of forces are broken down into 3 different categories. That is a policy change that, if you remember, we implemented in 2023, where we have now level 1, level 2, and we added level 3 use of force investigations. Level 1 is the higher level of non-categorical use of force, and those are described or those are utilized when there are applications of force that result in serious bodily injury that don't result in a categorical use of force investigation, or where we find that there are inconsistent statements between an officer's account of the event, witness statements, or video, or maybe the nature of the injuries don't match what the officer says happened. That would spur a level 1 non-categorical use of force investigation. Level 2 use of forces would include use of force investigations that utilize intermediate force options, to include the 40-millimeter launcher, the taser, OC spray, baton, or a beanbag. It would also include canine contacts or level 2 uses of force, and it would also include uses of force where officers utilize any type of strike, which would include a punch, an elbow, a kick, or a knee strike, including leg sweeps or takedowns. And then we have a level 3 use of force, which are generally lower level applications of force that are described more as control holds, firm grips, wrist locks, joint locks, or body weight, where a suspect is not injured or does not complain of injury. That would also include, which we added with level 3, would be where we use intermediate force options that don't strike a suspect. So prior to 2023, we weren't capturing that information. If we'd use a beanbag or a 40-millimeter, that wasn't captured in a use of force investigation if it didn't strike a suspect. Level 3 now captures those applications of force, where we use those intermediate force options that don't actually strike anyone. Level 3 also added the use of force on skirmish lines. So prior to, those uses of forces were not documented in use of force investigations. They were documented another way. We added any use of force in a crowd control situation to be investigated as a level 3. So in 2024, as you'll see, we had nearly 100 fewer reportable use of force incidents in 2024 versus 2023. So which represented about a 6.2% reduction. This category, or this slide just gives an overview of the number of categorical use of force incidents in which intermediate force options were applied. So as you can see, the taser leads the way, and it has year over year as far as the tool, the intermediate force option that's used most often during incidents. The increase that you see in 2024, we increased our intermediate force options incidents in which we applied those from 325 in 2023 to 385. That's an 18.5% increase in 2024. The increase primarily due to additional applications of the 40-millimeter less lethal launcher, the baton strikes, and the beanbag shotgun. And so that is the general overview of the type of statistics that you'll find in the book. I'll close it out with how the public can access this when it is adopted by the commission. As you can see here, if you were to go to the department's website at www.lapdonline.org, the report can be found under the Police Commission's quick link at the bottom of our page in the section labeled its Annual Use of Force Year-End Report. And there will be a link when it's approved to the 2024 report. It will be listed at the top. And for anybody that's interested, there is a historical information on that website, which includes historical versions of our year-end review, as well as abridged summaries of the categorical use of force incidents and their related findings. So with that, I would like to say thank you. And we look forward to getting this thing produced so that we can open it up to the public.
Thank you, Captain Pluggy. I look forward to this item coming back before the board in a couple of weeks with a standalone report on the increase of officer-involved shootings. I know that there are recent coverage of this issue over the weekend, and I want to make sure that the public is aware that the department is working on the report and is due back in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Secretary?
Next, we have item 5B, which should be the verbal presentation on the Strategic Plan 2026. And we have Captain Shannon White.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners, Executive Director Sibley, Chief McDonald, Inspector General Berrigan, and Mr. De La Guerra. I am Captain Shannon White, and I'm the Commanding Officer of the newly established Strategic Planning and Policies Division. I'm here this morning to provide you with a brief overview of the 2026 strategic goals and initiatives, as well as share with you how the department will shift its approach to the strategic plan moving forward. The goals and initiatives that you see before you, and there should be a slide, are captured in the strategic plan preview currently posted to the department's internal website. The 5 goals, which are to employ innovative crime fighting and safety strategies, to enhance the workplace to support success and well-being, to champion transparency, accountability, and communication, to advocate for vulnerable populations, and to revitalize training and elevate technologies, are drawn from the 5 distinctive priorities Chief McDonald outlined during his swearing-in speech. The corresponding initiatives offer members of the department greater clarity and guidance on how to pursue those goals in a meaningful way. Collectively, these goals and initiatives are the foundation to meeting Chief McDonald's commitment to moving the LAPD and the communities we serve forward together with courage, compassion, and a clear vision. Presently, each segment of the department has been asked to meet with their respective leadership team and identify the initiatives they can impact through specific, measurable, and achievable projects that they will embark upon during 2026. Unlike previous iterations of the strategic plan, the published document will not cover multiple years. Instead, it will focus solely on what can be achieved next year. This mirrors what other large agencies like NYPD do, and it is our belief that applying this narrow lens will allow commands to remain nimble and responsive to the changing financial and staffing outlooks each year while striving to support the department mission. An additional benefit to taking a more streamlined approach to the strategic plan is that it will allow us to conduct a ready analysis of our success each year. Beginning with 2027, each published strategic plan will serve as a scorecard for the prior year, capturing the number of approved programs and initiatives that were completed, as well as establishing a ready platform to highlight some of our key achievements and their impact internally, as well as across neighborhoods throughout the city. And to be fair, this concludes my extremely brief remarks on where we are with the plan and what our next steps are going forward. I will take any questions if the board has any.
Thank you, Captain. Are there any questions from the board?
Can I just ask one more time, when do we anticipate that being disclosed?
Yes, ma'am. So right now, the project is outstanding for all of the offices across the department. We're looking for a return on their initial projects this week. We'll then move forward with reviewing those, determining what will be adopted as part of the strategic plan. There will be a grant plan that is made to align with that, to seek funding sources if that's part of the impediments that they have to success. And then that should be published for the new year. The intention is for this to be a calendar year rather than a fiscal year offset.
Any other question? Dr. Sellers?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. Thank you, Captain. Just a couple questions. The first one is there are a number of items that are identified in the plan that can probably have some metrics applied to them and analyzed in that manner. Will that be done?
Yes, sir. So when we're looking at it, part of it, again, it was the projects is that they need to be specific and measurable. And so once they are approved and adopted by the chief of police, that will be part of that overall analysis for success.
Thank you. And in addition to that, it would be useful to know if, in fact, the RAND study that was done last year was used in any way to support these particular items in the strategic plan or not.
Yes, so sir, the RAND study has been socialized throughout the department and really informs a lot of the things that we'll be discussing, not only with the strategic plan, but also the department reorganization and then the initiatives that each of those parts of the department will engage in to support this plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Any other question? Thank you very much, Kate.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have item C, the verbal presentation on the organizational update, presented by Assistant Chief Tingarides, Deputy Chiefs Pinto and Embrick.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, President Sanchez-Gordon and all police commissioners, Mr. Berrigan, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, and Mr. De La Guerra. I'm Commander John Pinto from the newly formed Human Resources Bureau under the Office of First Assistant Chief, Chief of Staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present this overview of our department's reorganization as formally announced in the Office of the Chief of Police notice dated August 13th, 2025, last month. The purpose of today's presentation is to provide the board and the public with a clear understanding of the department's structural realignment, why these changes were made, how they were developed, and the outcomes they are designed to achieve. The department's reorganization was initiated to provide operational efficiency and eliminate redundancy, to strengthen personnel support and employee morale, and realign responsibilities in response to community needs and internal input. This was informed by findings from the independent 6-month RAN assessment report, individual and group meetings from department employees asking for their recommendations, and recommendations from the 11 internal working groups, including sworn civilian staff, labor unions, oversight from general counsel and the city attorney's office, with a focus on streamlined job functions, accountability, and equitable leadership. Timeline and transition. Changes began in the weeks following the August 13th, 2025 notice. This will become officially effective for deployment period 10, which starts on September 21st, 2025 of this month. The Chief of Police continues to actively monitor and implement its progress. This presentation will cover the 5 major components of the reorganization. So I'll go over all 5. If you'd like, I can stop if you have questions regarding one of the components. The first component is the reactivation of the Human Resources Bureau. This reestablishment of the Human Resources Bureau is one of the most pivotal changes. Created to consolidate and strengthen all personnel-related job functions with a clear focus on recruitment, retention, and employee morale. There are 2 groups under Human Resources Bureau. The first group that was reestablished was Personnel Group. The commanding officer is Commander Maria Mota, who's responsible for Personnel Division, Recruitment and Employment Division, and Officer Representation Section. This structure allows our department to better align hiring and onboarding of staffing needs, enhance the recruitment pipeline, and ensure fair, consistent representation for sworn personnel. The second group under Human Resources Bureau is Human Relations Group. Commanding officer is Commander Al Neal, who's responsible for Employee Relations Unit, the Ombuds Office, and Employee Assistance Unit. This integration brings together all mechanisms for addressing labor relations, minor disciplinary matters, and workplace conflict resolution. It enables clear intervention and department-wide consistency, reducing the fragmentation that previously existed between having them in different offices. The second major component was the citywide homicide unit's realignment under Robbery Homicide Division. The next major shift was a transfer of bureau-wide homicide units from the Office of Operation to Robbery Homicide Division within Detective Bureau. This change was made for address ongoing personnel shortages in investigative units, to provide structural cross-training between junior and senior veteran homicide detectives, and to create a centralized capacity to monitor citywide trends such as patterns of violence, serial offenses, and potential emerging threats. By centralizing oversight, we increase investigative consistency, enabling more strategic case assignments, and better position the department to manage high-profile or complex cases. The third component was the creation of the Constitutional Policing and Policy Bureau, CPPB. We have deactivated the Office of Constitutional Policing and Policy and replaced it with the newly formed Constitutional Policing and Policy Bureau. The CPPB will be led by Civilian Police Administrator 3, aligning with our broader objective to integrate civilian expertise into the department's strategic leadership framework. Also under this bureau will be the Risk Management Legal Affairs Group, which will be commanded by Police Administrator 2 with the working title of our Department Risk Manager. Within CPPB, we've also launched the new Strategic Planning and Policies Division, who is commanded by Captain 2 Shannon White, who just spoke. This reorganization achieves the following. Number one, it eliminates the entire office. So we've reduced the executive overhead. Number two, we've reduced the use of, we maximize the use of available workforce, especially during sworn and civilian staffing challenges, and we've strengthened the department's ability to develop policy, secure grants, and guide long-term strategy. The fourth major component is the civilian leadership transition from Information Technology Bureau. The Information Technology Bureau will no longer be overseen by a deputy chief. It will now be led by a civilian chief information officer, which is a deputy chief equivalent. This shift allows our department to civilianize non-operational functions, preserving sworn command capacity for field operation and other assignments. It ensures technical systems, data infrastructure, and modernization projects directly directed to subject matter experts. And number three, it increases efficiency, it reduces command redundancies, and better aligns resources with operational priorities. The last of the five components is the deactivation of traffic group and realignment within traffic divisions. This shift allows our department to increase efficiency to better align our resources with the Office of Operation priorities. Previously, President, our traffic division was under a separate office of a different office. Now it's all under Office of Operations, under Director Chief Tingridis. Number two, it provides bureau-level leadership teams direct access to traffic units to address street racing, traffic-related patterns, and high-injury networks. And lastly, it increases collaboration with patrol and traffic officers who work under the same chain of command. I'd just like to add there were a few other major changes within our organization. One of them was the Community Safety Partnership Bureau now reports under the Office of Operations. What this has added is it has now returned one deputy chief, 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, 11 sergeants, and 110 officers back to the Office of Operation. We've also deactivated Community Relations Section and Public Engagement Section that was under the Office of Operation. This move has returned 1 lieutenant, 3 sergeant, and 15 senior lead officers who've now been reassigned to our geographic areas. These adjustments reinforce our chief's frontline expectation that we return personnel to support core geographic operational functions. And I'm getting to the end here. Our intended outcomes of our reorganization, the changes announced last month are not simply structural, they're cultural. Through this reorganization, we aim to create a clear, unified chain of command, centralize and improve recruitment, personnel development, and employment support, embed equity and consistency into how we manage our workforce, and respond more effectively to complex crimes with emerging public safety trends. And lastly, build an internal environment that reflects the values of our personnel and the communities we serve. In closing, I hope this presentation provided you with our structural realignment, need to streamline and centralize functions and accountability, and respond both to our community and internal needs. I'm available to answer any questions regarding our department's reorganization. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. Let me ask the board, any questions? Okay, Dr. Shills?
Thank you, Madam Chair, President. And thank you, Commander, for the report. Just a couple comments, questions.
Sure.
On the reactivation of Human Resources Bureau. So as you all know, attrition is probably outpacing hiring at this point. And the chief and I discuss this issue very frequently. We're losing a lot of experience and a lot of expertise. I understand that we're no longer having in-person hiring mixers. I know because I've attended almost all of them since I've been a commissioner, and usually on those Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock, people come from across the country. There's over 100 people sitting in the room. So we don't have a recruitment problem. We don't have a marketing problem. We do have a hiring process problem. So I'd just like to know two things. One, is there any consideration of going back to those in-person hiring mixers? I think it's very important that people who are applying to this department get to see, speak with, and connect with people who are in the department and ask those vital questions about a career they're considering pursuing. And number two, what's being done to reduce the almost a year in terms of days process to get on this department, and we're losing quality candidates to other agencies who are able to process their people much faster.
Great question, thank you. On the first question you asked, our chief has directed under his leadership us. We had several meetings with our mayor, with our deputy mayor, Robert Clark, with the new general manager of personnel department, Ms. Billups. We now have weekly meetings to address some of the challenges regarding the hiring that we were doing. Myself and my leadership team attended a meeting about a month ago where we asked personnel department, their leadership team, that with the LAPD assistance, we would like to bring back the in-person hiring testing. We did at ARTC. We're going through the process because it's my understanding that we needed to have their moderators there while we were doing the testing. So under the leadership of Commander Mario Mota and Captain Lisa Rubikava, we're asking to see if we can have that those personnel attend that. So our goal, in a nutshell, our goal is to bring back the in-person hiring. So we're working with personnel department and their leadership team so we can coordinate that hopefully in a short period of time.
Thank you, Commander. Every month we fail to do that is another month's worth of people we could have in this process. So we would appreciate an update, at least if there's some timeline that's anticipated, if you would let us know.
Yes, Commissioner, we do have dashboards that we're using with personnel department now that we've been tracking. I don't have the exact numbers, but since since LAPD has instituted our hiring promotion with Unrivaled, we're still seeing the same number of people applying through the portal now that we were seeing prior to the in-person testing. So the good news, if I could say without giving you exact numbers, was that our recruitment campaign has been working. We're seeing the same number of people that are initially applying, but obviously we wanted to see that increase if we can do in-person hiring.
Thank you. On the community engagement reorganization, Commissioner Garcia, Inspector General Barragan, and I attended a meeting in West Bureau several weeks ago, and several people who were present there, residents of West Bureau, were concerned about the reduction, a possible reduction in number of SLOs. They have a relationship with those senior lead officers. Is that going to happen? And if it is going to happen, how are we going to keep that engagement going with them not having contact with the people that they've now established a relationship with?
It's a great question. I think that's why we had the realignment. If it's okay, I'd like to ask Assistant Chief Amada Tingris to come up here and give you a thorough description of our steps moving forward.
Thank you. Morning, Chief.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for that question. I too received the same questions, and the response is quite simple. Those senior lead officers will maintain those relationships. We had senior lead officer vacancies throughout the department, and we were able to fill those vacancies with those senior lead officers. Each command officer that has been selected by the chief of police has an ancillary duty. I am the African American liaison. Chief John Tom is the Jewish liaison. Those command staff officers will keep those relationships, working with the bureaus and those senior lead officers that have gone back out into operations. What we're hoping to do with the relationships and the knowledge that those SLOs have, we work from the ground up within those divisions and those bureaus to cultivate that relationship so that not one single person has those relationships, but the captains, the lieutenants, the patrol officers, that knowledge that they have will be grassroots. and they have the ability to bridge those relationships and those connections at the divisional level.
Thank you, and I know you've probably already done this, but any efforts you can make in educating and making the residents more aware of the fact that they're not going to lose their SLOs would probably be well received because they are very concerned.
Yes, absolutely.
The last question I have is regarding the traffic group. You mentioned it, Commander, the street takeovers, the street racing, and what we've seen is organized crime crews that are working out of these same folks who participate in these things. What kind of relationship or working partnership do we have with the DA's office to prosecute the people who are actually engaged in these activities and commit criminal acts?
It's okay, I'll ask Chief to answer that one, thank you.
Yes. So the traffic divisions will now be under the Office of Operations as well as the Street Racing Task Force, and that will not stop. They just this past Sunday did an excellent job in collaboration with the DA, with the California Highway Patrol, with our tow yards to ensure that that model that we've created is continuous. One of the things that we're looking at within the Street Racing Task Force is we're focused a lot in South Bureau, where a lot of the street takeovers are, but they're happening in the Valley. They're happening in West Bureau. So we're going to take a broader approach and ensure that we spread those resources through operations in all 4 of the bureaus. We'll be restructuring that to ensure that there's equity in that resource that we've utilized predominantly in South Bureau. But the coordination with the DA has been seamless. We've had a lot of great arrests, a lot of focus. A social media component has now been built into that too, so that we're strategic in where we place the resources to address those takeovers.
Thank you, Chief. And Chief, again, that's another opportunity perhaps whenever those significant arrests are taking place to have a press conference, because one of the issues that I hear when we're out there is people are concerned about the street takeovers and the bike crews that come through the town, almost, essentially really making people quite nervous with regards to what they're doing out there.
No, thank you. We're looking at some other things that have been done in other cities across the country too, to be able to address this same issue that have had pretty good results.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, Commander, and Madam
Thank you.
President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sothers, for those questions. They were very significant and important, and the follow-up answers, I thank you. Okay, I think we have another question.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for the report. Kind of going to Vice President Sothers' comments relating to community engagement, I think one thing, hopefully, with this more streamlined approach, that we really have a better understanding of all of the different community events that are happening throughout the entire department, and that really is able to have an aerial view of a master calendar of so that we make sure that not one division is, having an excess of events while others are not doing anything. And so ideally, I think having this type of approach will really get to see if there's any gaps that need to be filled. And hopefully you'll be kind of monitoring for that. And when you put up the organizational chart, I did see that there are a couple of significant vacancies that are open, including the Office of Constitutional Policing. Just wanted to kind of confirm that that is a priority for the department to fill, and understand that can be a process.
Yeah, I can jump on that. It is certainly a priority. There's a number of 4, I believe, positions that we're looking for exemptions for. That's working its way through the system, approved by the mayor, now working its way through personnel department and then a city council. So once we get that, we'll be able to move forward in that regard.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And the question you mentioned, Commander, you mentioned increased workforce efficiency. Would you be able to provide, and if it's not at this time, that's okay, a report that really speaks to the data that supports that comment of increasing workforce efficiency? And really, I'd like to see how many more officers does that mean are now available and in the community? And then the other thing you mentioned is impacts on the culture of the department. So if you can share either now or again provide a more detailed report on what that means and what are those impacts on the culture of the department and what is it that we expect to see as a result of those changes and shifts.
Certainly, we'd love to come back and provide all the data sets that you're asking for, but just, if I could just share with you, in the last month or so, since we've started this activation of HRB, I think from the RAND study, and our chief met with, I believe, all of our senior command staff when he first took over as our chief, and he's been obviously to multiple community meetings, meeting with all members of our new officers, recruit officers, our entire department and community, that one of the sentiments that we were hearing was that it just seems like it was difficult for things to be maneuvered internally, as far as if someone's asking for something or needs some type of medical leave or challenges with trying to be reassigned to another. It seems like it was taking a long time. So I think just kind of maybe giving you a very rough picture is with HRB now, we went to a general staff meeting, we presented to our senior staff was that we now have the capability with Human Resources Bureau that when a captain or a member of our department has a concern or issue, that we can get that usually expedited or processed within weeks now. So I think the efficiency there is, this HRB is internal. So when you look at employee wellness, development, things like that, we're saying that when an employee comes to their command staff with a concern or issue, the 6 units that are under my command, we can immediately move towards conflict resolution, immediately move towards labor relations, we can immediately move towards personnel department, medical liaison section, and get our employees and the resources they need. I'll say weekly, I would say daily, but I'll just say within a couple of weeks. So we're trying to streamline our processes so that our employees of our department feel like we hear them, we're here to help them, and our job is to support them as best we can.
Commissioner, as it relates to culturally with community engagement, having Community Safety Partnership Bureau within operations is a mind shift that it's specialized and it was its own bureau as a direct report to the chief of police. Putting that relationship-based policing model in operations changes the mindset of the expectation that every officer is a CSP officer and it's not specialized. Also, putting the traffic divisions under the Office of Operations. Traffic is a public safety issue and concern. So having that ability for those traffic captains to have direct communication, to be involved in the daily crime calls, to talk about the high injury networks and what's going on with DUI checkpoints that integrates that traffic into operations. And our area captains have the flexibility to utilize those resources. And also having the traffic units engaging with safe passage, engaging with some of the crime concerns at the divisions is tremendous in our public safety efforts as well. Lastly, having those senior lead officers that were part of those specialized units within the building changes the mindset that that's just their job. They're out in the field, in operations, leveraging those relationships and teaching other officers how to build those relationships and connecting as well.
Thank you. And one more. So I know this is independent civilian positions, but how does the reorg impact the mental health offerings to officers? Right? What is the efficiency there and as it relates to mental health services and programs for the officers and their families? And again, if that's not something that you want to share right now, I'd love to get a report or just some strategic thinking on how that can potentially increase the availability of those services.
So I just want to make sure I understand your question. So you're saying specifically internally, how do the resources involving mental health internally, how is there an efficiency on that side?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of the mental health resources internally, obviously through our BSS with Dr. Dorian and his great and amazing team, they now work directly for the Office of First Assistant Chief, Chief Choi at Chief of Staff. So I think there's an efficiency there because when issues come up with wellness or when officers get hospitalized, that I think there's a very streamlined approach to where if the chief calls and says, hey, we need to have our wellness team go out there, or if there's a tragedy that happens, it's one phone call to EAU, and we have people on the ground at the hospital within a short amount of time. So I think it's the process that the chief has set up with this reorganization that has allowed us and allowed the team under HRB to be efficient, to move quickly, and to get people the resources they need immediately. That's the expectation that Chief has placed on the department and specifically HRB and the men and women under this command.
Thank you. And I'd love to sort of hear that it will also be sort of influenced how CSP and that community policing being under operations will influence the entire department. Some similar with mental health, like how does the leadership movement then create a space where that leadership can advocate more for mental health services so that officers are more inclined to be willing to take on those services, one, to know about those services, but two, to actually access and leverage those services.
It's a great point, sir. And just as a reminder for everyone here that we do have a walk this Saturday at our academy, our beautiful academy, that I think Dr. Droy and his team of amazing psychologists that come out all the time are there to really support. And I hope look forward in the future that I can give you more specific details on how we're trying to bridge those gaps between that, wellness, peer support personnel. A lot of those different processes, I think, are under the Chief's leadership now are coming together.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your excellent questions. I also want to thank Chief Tangeridis for your leadership and for your thoroughness in this report. Commander Pinto, I look forward to working with you and both of you, really. And thank you again. It's very thorough,
Yes,
very well
thank you.
presented.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Next, we have item D, the department's report relative to California Assembly Bill 481 annual equipment, presented by Captains Humphreys, White, and Wang.
Okay, good morning again to the board. I'm changing hats a bit and presenting this year's AB 481 report on behalf of the Constitutional Policing and Policy Bureau. With me today as the subject matter experts for the military equipment and its use are Captain Cliff Humphreys of Metropolitan Division and Captain James Wang from Training Division. We also have other SMEs depending on if we want to delve into other areas. Today's presentation focuses on the department's 2024 AB 481 equipment report. This is our fourth year presenting our findings, and as with prior reports, this year's version has undergone a comprehensive review by the City Attorney's Office, which has confirmed that the report fulfills all legal requirements. With that, we are respectfully requesting your approval and transmittal of this report to City Council. Additionally, we will be requesting that City Council renew Ordinance Number 18763, originally enacted in 2022. This renewal is essential to maintain compliance with the requirements set forth under AB 481. It is important to note that the contents of this report represent a collaborative effort involving multiple entities within the department, and the compiled information was gathered over the course of several months. The process for completing this report started with the dissemination of last year's inventory and the related form for reporting items to all LAPD commands. Audit Division is responsible for collecting these forms and coordinating with relevant department entities to complete the final document before you. While many of the items listed are highly specialized and used by units such as MSIT, SWAT, and Bomb Squad, several others are standard equipment used daily by patrol officers. Since the last reporting period, several items have been decommissioned and removed from AB 481 inventory. These include 4 unmanned aerial systems that aged out and 180 rifles that were returned to the federal government. The final report contains the following information for 2024 on reportable items and categories of items. It includes their purpose, usage summary, authorized uses, training requirements, laws governing their use, inventory, related costs, and complaints. A few highlights of the report include that within 2024, there were 7 categorical uses of force involving 10 total uses of AB 481 equipment. So far, 8 of the 10 uses have been adjudicated, and all 8 were deemed in policy. There were also 141 non-categorical uses of force involving AB 481 equipment. All 141 non-categorical uses of force have been adjudicated and deemed in policy. A total of 21 complaints were identified as related to the use of AB 481 equipment for 2024. None of the 17 completed complaint investigations have been sustained, and 4 are still pending their final adjudication. Additionally, in alignment with recommendations from the Office of the Controller's audit of our prior AB 481 reporting procedures, Audit Division conducted a random inspection of equipment assigned to both Metropolitan Division and Training Division. All items were accounted for and properly secured. The Office of the Controller also recommended additional information to be included in the annual military equipment reports, specifically product descriptions sourced from the manufacturer's website. Accordingly, in this year's report, Audit Division has included links to the manufacturer's websites for descriptions of the items whenever available. The annual report is also required to include cost-related information. It is important to note that funding for the acquisition and maintenance of these items is not drawn solely from the city's general fund. Instead, it comes from a variety of sources, including state and federal grants, and support from the Police Foundation and private purchases by employees. Ultimately, the improvements to this year's report have increased our transparency to the public, as well as our internal accountability. It is our intention to carry forward these best practices with future reports, as well as look for opportunities to continue to improve how we share our findings with this body and interested members of the public. With that, I will conclude my remarks related to this important report and leave space for any questions, should you have them, for myself or the SMEs with me today.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Yes, you may proceed. Commissioner Gurgis.
Thank you, and thank you for this report. It does appear to be fairly comprehensive, and having seen what other departments do, I think the LAPD is providing more detail than a lot of other departments, so thank you for that. And I understand it's a big undertaking of requiring different parts of the department to self-report information, right? And in the report, it says you're looking to individual offices, bureaus, and sections to self-report and relying on them to be accurate. I was glad to see towards the end of the report that there were some random inspections done to kind of confirm that this was actually being accurate. And I think the two ones that were chosen make sense, both Metropolitan Division and Training, because they likely have some of the largest cadre of equipment, especially the specialized ones with Metropolitan Division. I'm very happy to see that their reporting matched what was actually there. I would recommend in the future to mix up the places that are being inspected so that we check other offices or divisions that may be performing these metrics that may not have the same level of requirements that Metropolitan does and Training do. Like, I think they typically do a lot of inspections all the time. So I want to make sure that the other departments' divisions are also keeping track of this faithfully and that you're getting the best numbers for these reports. But thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Fabian?
No questions.
No question?
Thank you for the report.
Commissioner Sellers?
Thank you, Madam President. As the Commissioner Shields mentioned, very comprehensive and extensive report. Well done. Just a couple questions as it relates to training. So in the section where we talk about our small unmanned aircraft systems, or SUASs, I know that we are going to be responsible for, on page 4, the records verifying training every 24 calendar months. So who exactly is responsible for keeping that information?
Sir, in regards to the training, we have a D2 that's assigned within our within Metropolitan Division. He's in charge of the drone cadre for Metro. Every time a drone is deployed at a SWAT incident, a report is completed within 2 days. We monitor that, we complete it. It goes to me for approval. Once I approve it, then it goes to various levels of review, from CTSOB to our commander, to our chief, and then to the OSO for the deputy chief for final approval. And then it's maintained and we have all the numbers.
Thank you. So I want to commend Commissioner Shields and Executive Director Sibley, who worked very hard with the working group to put this latest iteration of the policies together for drones. We want to make sure we don't fall out of compliance on that matter. Again, as it relates to training, if we go to page 6 on our robots, as it relates to SWAT. So our SWAT unit members operating a robot must attend the SWAT basic course where they are trained in the use of the department robots. Is this a one-time training or is this a recurring training, and if so, how often?
It's recurring. It's completed during the SWAT school. We have a technology cadre that's headed by the sergeant, a +1, a P3 +1, and then the training cadre. They do training consistently at least 2 times a month, and it's ongoing. With that training, upon every time that it is deployed, there's a debrief session, and then it's brought up, if any incidents of concerns, it's brought up with the platoon.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And Captain, on the last item on complaints and the misuse summary, you mentioned that we had 21 complaints that were identified and 4 are pending adjudication or pending review and evaluation. Is there a timeline on when those 4 will be completed?
So yes, sir, these still all fall within our standard procedure, needing to be within the completion of a year. So there's no indication that any of them are told at this time, so they will be adjudicated before they reach that 365 days.
Thank you very much. Madam President, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your questions. I want to thank Captains Humphreys, White, and Wang for your report. And Madam Secretary, do we proceed with the recommended action?
The recommended action is to approve the department's report and transmit to City Council. Do we have somebody to move the motion?
I'd move.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We will now recess for 5 minutes. We are now back in open session. We have item 5E, the appeal of denial of parade permit.
The next item concerns a notice of appeal of the denial of a parade permit, which was submitted on August 22nd, 2025. I believe we may not have a quorum to vote on the item because of a couple of our members may have a potential conflict of interest. I would like to have Commissioner Shields and then Vice President Commissioner Suthers state their conflict of interest.
Thank you, Madam President. Based on some online research, I believe that some of my current clients have sponsored this event in the past or are currently sponsoring. So out of an abundance of caution, I would like to recuse myself.
Very well. Vice President?
Madam President, due to the relationship between my current employer, University of Southern California, as also a sponsor of this event, I also would like to recuse myself from action on this matter.
Thank you. At this time, I move that we refer this matter to the Police Permit Review Panel pursuant to LAMC Section 102.13.01D. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The matter has been referred. If you have any questions about this process, please speak to Mr. Sibley after the meeting.
The commission will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda items 6A1, 6A2, 6B, and 6C in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary.
The commission is back in open session. It's concluded its work in closed session. We'll now have a report out by the executive director.
Thank you. So at the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on September 9th, 2025, during the closed session, the board adjudicated 2 categorical use of force cases, 6A1 and 6A2, and made the following findings by a 4-0 vote. So for 6A1, which is officer-involved shooting 047-24, for tactics, the finding was tactical debrief for 1 Sergeant 1, 3 police officers 3, and 8 police officers 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, finding was in policy, no further action, 1 Sergeant 1, 3 police officers 3, and 8 police officers 2. And for lethal use of force, the finding was in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 3, and 7 police officers 2. Case 048-24, item 6A2, non-tactical unintentional discharge. Findings were as follows. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3, and for unintentional discharge, administrative disapproval, negligent discharge, 1 police officer, 3. For items 6B, 1 and 2, the items were adjudicated. And for item 6C1, the matter was discussed, and that concludes the report out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sibley. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 That concludes this meeting. Thank you.